Hey guys, what's going on? Jab here, and in today's video, we are going to be talking a little bit about the price action of Bitcoin, how we're sitting just below $40,000 right now, and we're going to be giving you an update about what's going on in New York, because a bill just passed the House for New York State that would be putting a 2-year moratorium on all Bitcoin mining that did not use renewables in that state, which is very interesting because if you look at certain metrics that we're going to be taking a look at here in a minute, 35% of global mining as of August of last year takes place in the United States, and 20% of the U.S.'s mining takes place in New York State, which means that 7.5% of global Bitcoin mining actually takes place inside of New York State. So this is actually a very interesting, very important bill that we're going to be talking about today. But on the flip side, we're also going to be talking about the Texas City, Dallas-Fort Worth, excuse me, not Dallas-Fort Worth, I'm sorry, Fort Worth. They just turned on some Bitcoin miners of their own, and this is, as far as we know, the first municipality in the United States that is actually doing Bitcoin mining itself. So we got a lot to talk about today. We are joined, as we have been all week, by T-Shroom. How are you doing, T-Shroom?
I'm doing really well. Really glad to be here. Really glad to be talking about these mining stories. They're really exciting, and continuing to keep Tim in our thoughts and our prayers.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me just go ahead and check because I'm not sure. Are we actually? There we go. Yes, we are actually on. My side was just messing up. Well, we are also joined as quite often by Kelly from New York. Kelly, you got boots on the ground up there. We're going to have to hear a little bit about your take of New York State here in a little bit.
Well, New York is some of the silliest and most absolutely out-of-date laws with crypto of anywhere in the country, if not the world. But, we got a lot of things going on with mining. We got some ideas, or some metrics showing that we might have a short squeeze coming. Markets are just ranging. They're perfectly going between some levels. We're going to go through that, but let's dive right into it. I hope everybody's getting the stream okay. Definitely send us any messages in the chat. We're definitely following with that. We'll want to make sure you all get the best information.
Absolutely. So guys, go ahead and hit that like button also if you haven't already. Let's see if we can't pump that all the way up to 150 likes here in the next couple of minutes. Thank you guys so very much for tuning into the show, and make sure that you stay tuned because we got a lot to talk about today. We are also joined, as always, by Zach. How are you doing, Zach? Definitely not high today.
What's up, guys? Dude, pray for me also. OBS really be kicking my butt sometimes. But I love y'all.
Our stream back end is giving us trouble, yeah. It's not Zach's fault. It looks like there's some technical difficulties going on over there. But let's go ahead and read some green names. T-Shroom, would you like to do the honors?
Absolutely. I will do that. I'm seeing Dennis Pizarka.
Hey, Dennis.
I am seeing other green names like Eye of the Beholder.
Hello.
Why You Loud.
What's up?
Which I actually really like that name.
That is actually a pretty
those
good
are the three that I'm seeing
so far. There were a lot more Angie's in chat also. There were a lot more names, but the chat reset. I'm not sure what happened there.
The chat reset.
I got a lot. I got a Matt C.
I think the old stream deal. There's a lot of still people waiting in the old stream. So I just posted a link to this video in that chat. So hopefully those people migrate over.
Good deal. Sounds Gucci. Good deal.
Crypto Alchemist, I'm seeing too.
Crypto Alchemist, there he is. How you doing, man? Sultan of Salt, Agent Gold, there we go. Guys, how's Club DeFi treating you? We've got a lot of people in Club DeFi now. We got a bunch of people in the Discord. I actually got in the Discord. It was either yesterday or the day before yesterday, and been spending a little bit of time over there talking to some of you guys, really enjoying it. Hopefully you guys are in Club DeFi. If you're not, you should definitely get ready for it because when it goes full launch, man, that thing is going to get huge. I cannot wait. It's going to be massive. T-Shroom, what were you going to say?
I was over in Club DeFi's Discord server yesterday showing off my new profile picture. I might have to do that again today. We'll see.
Pretty good. I can show him. You want him to see?
Yeah, go ahead.
You want him to see? Okay, well, go ahead and jump onto my screen, and I will show you right now. He's got pretty dope profile picture right here.
You're never going to guess what it is.
What is it? It's T-Shroom with laser eyes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's T-Shroom with laser eyes. And unfortunately, T-Shroom is the only person in here that does not have a role. This is so sad. Look at this. I don't know what happened. Why do you not have a role? Matt's a mod. Everybody else is an early adopter. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Hey, sometimes you just got to take one for the team. Just got to keep pressing on.
Sometimes that's what you got to do.
I want to see it through the eyes of just the average trader,
Yeah, we're hoping that Kelly is going to be able to get an account. He shot half the videos in there, but we don't know if he's deserving of an account for Club DeFi. We're not quite sure yet, but we're going to try and figure that out. Maybe one day he'll get into the club that he's done a bunch of work on. Guys, we're really excited for Club DeFi. I think that's our point. Want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by Ledger Nano products. You can find links for those down below, and Lorenzo Tax. If you're not familiar with Lorenzo, he is a good friend of the channel who does our cryptocurrency taxes, and he can do yours also. Check out those links down below. T-Shroom, would you mind running us through a little bit of a market watch? What's going on over on CoinMarketCap, buddy?
Sure. Yeah. Tell me when you're on my screen. Good to go.
We are on your screen.
All right. So yeah. So Bitcoin, down 2%. I'm seeing more red than green, and where I am seeing green, you're seeing it under Solana. Let's see, Avalanche. Not doing too bad. Up 1.5% there. Binance USD is stablecoin, but that is some green. A little bit of positivity there. Overall, definitely going to be a down start to the morning of trading here. Ethereum also down, leading the downward trend there, lower than Bitcoin, but Terra Luna down 6% in 24 hours. That's not great. Terra Luna has been on a tear, some might say. You look over to the 90-day percentage, up 48% over 90 days. So it's been doing really well. It's been getting a lot of traction, and that is a result of its Bitcoin buying policy. Almost like the Fed's buying bonds, the Terra Luna is buying Bitcoin. Which one do you want to own? Anyway, so yeah, the overall trend is definitely down, but there's some gems in there. Avalanche doing well, and Solana also holding on to the gains from the last 24 hours.
Absolutely. Boom. Well, there you go, guys. That is what it is looking like over on CoinMarketCap. Kelly, I'm going to throw it to you because we need to talk a little bit about funding rate and open interest, because you think that there is a short squeeze that might be coming. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, it's very important when you're doing any sort of trading or investing, especially in the crypto market, Bitcoin, to look at what's going on with funding rates and open interest and these sorts of things, because it gives you an idea, especially when you might be entering a position. Are you just being excited and aping into that position, or are there other sort of metrics that are showing that there's something else that might be brewing? And in this case, people that are hyper bearish right now, thinking we're still going to drop, very well could be the case. However, I'm going to show you this article, and we're just going to briefly cover this really quick. This is right here. That essentially that there is when you have funding rates going up, essentially whether it's positive or negative, if they're very positive, that means that the majority of the market is betting or placing trades to long positions, and it's more expensive to hold those longs. And if it's negative, then that means that it's more expensive to hold the short positions. And in this case, it seems like there's a lot of the open interest is showing that there's a lot of essentially that the cost of holding long short perpetual future positions has been consistently neutral to negative in recent weeks. A negative funding rate means shorts are paying longs to keep the bearish position open. In other words, the market is skewed bearish right now, and that's also evident in the depressed futures premium. So essentially what it's starting to look like right now is that the market is getting a little exhausted. The optimistic people, excuse me one second. Excuse me. The optimistic longs are basically it's being overweighted right now with short positions and people coming in on that. And there's been a lot of liquidations in the last 2 days on the longs, and now the market's starting to switch bearishly. And so it's starting to look like there's a lot of shorts that are stacking up, and basically the bears are starting to gain weight here. And any time that happens, when it's especially in this point right now where we're in sideways action, the market likes to shake out the most people. And so in this case, it's looking like a short squeeze could very much be brewing in this case because of where the funding rates are at and the lack of interest on just regular, just sort of the futures open interest. So that's what it's looking like right now.
And what would the effect of that short squeeze be? What direction do you think it would push the market if we were to see that big short squeeze? Because I've seen a lot of short squeezes before, and they typically end up being very good for Bitcoin. There's actually one that took place on April 12th, 2018, almost 4 years ago exactly. It jumped the market 25% in a day. What do you think that would end up looking like? I'm sorry, 14% in an hour. What do you think that would end up looking like?
Well, first off, here I'll go straight to the chart. First thing I want to notice here on the chart is the fact that, this is one of the reasons why technical analysis can be such a great sort of roadmap for what's going on in the market. And as you can see right here, we rejected the other day right at this 40,600 level and came down, fell through this fib golden support, and we bounced almost directly on this support line here. And if you want to see where this is, let me go out to a larger time frame. This essentially is, if I from this wick to this wick, and I just projected this out, not knowing if it was ever going to be hit. And this is exactly where the price is bounced off of right here. Now, if we get a short squeeze would be meaning that the shorts are getting pushed back past their liquidation level or close to it. And people essentially, if you have a short, to exit that position, you have to buy, which would basically send the price up. Now, in this case, depending on how much those get stacked up, and it's not too aggressively overweighted right now, but if we were to get a short squeeze, I could definitely see this price at least coming back up and testing this level again, where we're at here at this 40,700, 41,000 level. If we are to push past this, that's what I would like to see is the price to get, whether it be from the short squeeze or the short squeeze starting that momentum, because it seems like anytime the price moves up, a lot of the people that have just been overweighted in this optimism of the market, still being mid-cycle. I'm one of these people, but I'm not aping into any positions. I'm waiting until we push past these key levels and then we actually have momentum to the upside. And I'm really honestly waiting until we get above not only this level, but we break this giant sort of the resistance of the top of this bear flag that we've been in for a long time. But I'm looking for, if we do get a short squeeze, that we get above this level and then we carry it through with volume and momentum to sustain to further upside from here. So all we can do right now is to play it safe and make sure if you are entering trades that you're doing it safely and you're waiting for confirmations. If we do break that level that I was talking about, that we either come back and test it or we show volume going continued to the upside.
I think that's a really important point to be looking at the on-chain and how it crosses over with the technicals. But let's go ahead and take a look here at those technicals, because a lot of people are very concerned about Bitcoin's price right now. We rallied up to $48,000 just a few weeks ago, about a month ago actually, and we've been in a downtrend ever since. And we've seen Bitcoin set lower low after lower low after lower low after a new lower low as of last night, down around 38,000. It really looks like we're starting to push down through this zone of support that we drew about a week and a half ago between $38,500 and $40,000. It looks like that we may be forming a bear flag here, and that bear flag that started on the 11th of April could be pushing us all the way down, as we could see, to $33,000, which would be an equivalent bottom that we saw back on the 23rd of January. T-Shroom, do you think we're about to bottom out here and go into a bounce and start rallying above 42K, or has the wind left the sails of the bulls and the bears are back in charge now and we're going to see another drop, maybe even lower than what we saw in January?
Well, the trend is your friend till the very end. I think, unfortunately, we have a little bit more bearishness to experience here. I don't think it's going to last too much longer, but I'm one that always looks at the, what are the fundamental forces? And I beat it like a dead horse yesterday, so I won't harp on it. But the Fed really, is very important. And until May 4th, I think we're going to continue to be in a downward trajectory here with Bitcoin. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't come back up and touch some of the resistance lines that we're seeing in that bear flag. But I think we will just continue. We'll just come right back down, until we get that information on May 4th. And I think we'll be surprised to see how we digest that information from the Fed. Just because there's a perceived outcome that the market has kind of decided that we want, which would be to keep the interest rates steady. That doesn't mean that is going to be interpreted on that day as a negative. Oftentimes, when we're perplexed by the way that the market reacts to Fed's decisions, and especially now when you're talking about doubling the rate, it starts to get into the timing of when these rates are coming in and if they're double stacking them or even triple stacking them. And that can start to craft the narrative for the upside, actually. So we'll see. I mean, you're asking a simple question: is it going to go higher or lower from here? I think it. In the short term, I don't know if you're on my screen or not, Zach, but in the short term, I could see it kind of come up and touch back up here, to this upper resistance up here. But I think it's just going to come, probably right back down and go lower, down to 37 and and possibly beyond. But we just have to be patient, keep watching, keep buying, and like what Kelly was saying is don't ape into any of these dips, but I am buying them. So that's kind of the approach that I'm having. Not financial advice, of course, but that's just what I'm experiencing day to day. Kelly, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that we're going to continue to trend lower before we start to make a jump higher?
Well, I think the problem is right now this sort of indifference, not indifference. There's a lot of fractal comparison going on a lot of crypto Twitter. A lot of analysts are looking at past patterns from 2017, also 2013. And the biggest problem, and I'm in a sort of, I don't want to call it a master group, but I'm in like a chat group with a number of about 15 or 20 very high level analysts on Twitter and across the crypto market. And we've been basically discussing this and sort of trying to understand what's going on in the market and sort of tear each other's ideas apart so we can all have a deeper understanding and make sure that we're giving good information to people as we share it. And one of the biggest problems that we're having right now is there's a lot of fractal comparisons that are going on across, throughout all analysts. But the major difference here that's hard to rectify within our analysis is the dramatic difference in not only the shape, but also the makeup of the crypto market in terms of what sort of big money players are involved, the institutions that are involved, the maturity psychologically of the market as a whole. There's a lot of one of the problems there is there's a lot of the long-term holders that once they've crossed that 155-day holding mark, they're classified as long-term holders. But there's a lot of traditionally short-term holders that bought at the top in November that because they're still holding now, they're considered long-term holders. However, are we going to start to see those sort of midterm, I'd rather classify those as midterm holders, are we going to see them start to capitulate around these levels because they've been underwater since November? Well, there's no way to tell until we see how the market plays out. However, the ever increasing and growing bullish metrics of the on-chain, the adoption, the government adoption, institutional adoption, the metrics with the NVRV, the reserve risk, all these different things that are showing the incredibly bullish, technically fundamental setup of Bitcoin is buoying a lot of people's sort of thoughts on what's going on in the market. However, we are in a very, very precarious place, being that we're so correlated with the traditional markets. And there's so much of a questionable state that we're in with the markets right now, especially with a lot of earnings reports coming in, Google missing their mark, Microsoft, also now we're having throughout this week, and I shared it on my Twitter. There's a lot of earnings reports that are coming out this week, including Apple. And there's a lot. And depending on what's going on with that, we have the FOMC meeting coming out next week. Although there's fractal comparisons that showing that we're going to be going bullish from here, we haven't been in this situation economically with the traditional markets weighing so heavily on, against the crypto market. So I think all we can do right now with this sideways action is play it very safe, be willing to hold for a long time or have your stops in place. And so right now, I still have a bullish outlook on what's going to happen, but I still think that we're going to have some sort of washout to the downside, and I mentioned it yesterday, whether it be 33, 31 area or very scary down to 27. But we also have to remember the realized price is still around 24, 25,000. So we could even get a washout all the way down to there. And at that point, the question is, how strong are the bulls going to be? Are we still going to hold it at that point, or will we get a capitulation that actually sends us into a full-scale bear market? All we can do right now is play it safe.
Well, guys, smash that like button if you were enjoying today's stream. Let's see if we can't get to 400 likes in the next couple of minutes. Kelly, is the Doge behind you learning about crypto as you're talking?
You know what? I was never a big fan of Doge. Yes, it's growing in community and strength and utility, but that dog makes me like Doge any less. That dog is the most, my wife, we watch dogs all the time. That's the first dog in a year and a half that hasn't been friendly to me. So it's
really?
So it makes me a little, makes me like Doge a little less.
Man,
cute
sucks.
Dog, but
a little bearish divergence.
Yeah, that's a cute dog, little doggish divergence. How about that? Well, Kelly, let me actually throw it back to you because I want to bring up something that I think will have big implications on Bitcoin. People are talking about it in chat. You even mentioned it, the DXY right now, the dollar currency index, which for anyone who doesn't know, is an index that references the U.S. dollar. I almost said Bitcoin. That references the U.S. dollar against a basket of foreign currencies. It basically shows the strength of the U.S. dollar, not in an absolute fashion, but in a relative fashion to a basket of other currencies. It's sitting at 103.019 points right now. The high set 5 years ago in 2016, 5.5 years ago, was 103.913. So it's only less than a point away from the highest point that the Dixie has seen in 20 years. We've seen the U.S. dollar get absolutely eviscerated over the last 2 years, but it still seems to be growing and outpacing everything else. Why do you think that is, and what impact do you think that'll have on Bitcoin?
Well, as you know, we've discussed quite a bit on this channel. There is a strong inverse correlation between what the Dixie's doing and the strength of the dollar and the markets, the crypto market, the Bitcoin market. So I'll go to my screen right here to outline this a little better. But when we're having strong bull markets, like for instance, if we're looking basically this whole period where where we're coming down was a period where Bitcoin was going up. This is a period where Bitcoin has been coming down. Basically, a good portion from here on was when Bitcoin has been crashing. Now, the problem with this is it's not a 1-to-1 ratio of correlation. It is. I do think we're going to break from this at some point, but the problem with this is the fact that we're having all this the tightening of quantitative easing, pulling out. I think it's like $95 billion a day or something like that.
A month.
Over the next. It would take 5 years before we got to the 5 trillion that they're trying to pull out of the the bonds and all the different places that they've been allocating money in this economic sort of the Fed money printing and buoying of the economy. And so I honestly think, although this was a very strong resistance, clearly we've broken through this. Will we get a small pullback at some point? Sure. But I think it's more likely that this will likely continue up, maybe not as strong parabolic as this, but I do think because of this and what's going on with the economy, I do think that we are going to get a little bit of a divergence here with in historical trends of it being an inverse correlation to Bitcoin, because the strength of everything happening fundamentally in Bitcoin, at some point there's going to be an irreversible supply shock that is going to drive the market up. And I don't think that that's going to directly relate to the Dixie falling, but this is something that we very, very much need to think about. I'm curious what T. Shroom thinks about this and how this is going to interact with the markets.
Yeah, I haven't spent a lot of time looking into the Dixie. I think it's really interesting, and obviously when you see something break through a resistance like that, it's very important to kind of get your head around it and understand how that's going to affect the rest of the market. But I would like to see that, kind of confirm and flip that resistance to support before I start to make any moves based on that breakout. But I don't really have much to add other than that, Kelly. It's a really good observation.
Good deal. Well, let's go ahead and read a couple super chats. I think we have one, maybe two. We've also got a couple new members who are actually people just re-signing up for the membership. Not quite sure what happened there, but T-Shroom, do you have those super chats logged over there?
Yeah, I've got a couple of super chats over here. We've got 2 people who have joined as Jedi Younglings and a Jedi Knight. So our first is a Jedi Youngling, Wind Peoples.
Welcome back, Wind Peoples.
So welcome on board there. And Grand Roofing Incorporated, welcome to the Jedi Knight.
Welcome back. Both of them had their memberships canceled somehow. I don't know what happened with that, but they're both back. So welcome back. We are glad you're back.
Yep. And then we got M Wines. So donated $5. Thoughts on ZRX? Seems like they are the protocol for Coinbase's NFT market.
I'm not familiar with it, but Kelly, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh wait, what was the coin? Sorry,
ZRX.
No thoughts on it. I haven't looked at it.
I've seen it on CoinMarketCap, but I don't know a whole lot about it. Do you, T-Shroom?
It's in the top 100.
It's 96, yeah.
Yeah, which is that's a good thing. And I don't know much about it, but I'm actually doing a lot more research on NFTs as we speak. So that's pretty good. And I'll be learning more about it, and I'll look into this for sure. But its chart doesn't look too bad. It looks like it's had a really big run up and then kind of corrected, maybe back on the upswing. So something to look into, perhaps, if you've got a little moon bag that's getting hot in your pocket.
Well, yeah, it does say Coinbase partners with OX, which is ZRX, to power their new social marketplace for NFTs. So, I mean, that's obviously a big fundamental development for the project. But yeah, I'm not deeply aware of it. My head's been so deep in Club DeFi the last 2-3 months.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's a lot of work going on over there. We got one more super chat before we move on here from Latour.
Latour says, after donating $10, I am a New York-based BTC miner with ASICs in Russia that has recently been forced to liquidate due to U.S. sanctions on mining. After consideration, Texas is the only place I will mine. New York doesn't get it.
New York doesn't get it. New York's in the middle of trying to run every single business out of their state, and they're doing a pretty good job because most of the billionaires are leaving, and a lot of the headquarters are moving to other places as well, like Florida and Texas, because they don't have state income taxes, and they're also not run by people that want to meddle in every single facet of the way your company runs and make it impossible for you to run a profitable business. Sorry, Kelly. Don't mean to knock your state. But you're originally from Texas, so you probably agree with me. I don't know. That's up to you. What do you think?
I definitely agree. You know, one of the saddest things that I found out, and I forget which documentary or movie I watched on Bitcoin about 2 years ago, and but it's so sad, like with the corruption, you know, in government and the regulations. You know, there's something here that the reason why, like for instance, I can't even buy Cartesi, which is available on Coinbase, because it's not allowed in this region. I had a Nexo account that I was using for a year and a half, had to close it in March of this year because that, you know, is completely outlawed. But in order to run whether it be exchanges or meet certain regulations within Coinbase, you have to have something called a bit license. And the craziest thing about that is the person that was responsible for instituting and writing the legislation around the bit license and all that basically put all this in place. And then as soon as he put it in place, that made it nearly impossible for any exchange or most coins to operate and, you know, be sold and utilized here in services as well. As soon as that was all put in place, he left his position in government and then basically joined a crypto company because he was able to navigate all the regulations. So
wow.
It's such a backwards.
That's ridiculous.
And it's funny because, you know, the saddest thing about it is crypto unquestionably is the next stage of development and evolution, and not only society, but also our, you know, economy, and especially New York being one of the financial, if not the financial capital of the world. It's quite shocking to me that they're so behind on integrating and, you know, becoming involved in supporting crypto development and being a part of that and being a bastion of it, like cities like Miami and now, you know, a lot of Texas, you know, and I think we're going to be going into a story here in a second with Fort Worth now, you know, having Bitcoin mines and stuff like that. But it's just sad that New York is so behind the game on this, in America in general, just rather than supporting this and integrating these technologies and having them develop and us having a deep hand and a part of that. You know, we're basically alienating it and basically losing, I don't want to say market share, but we're losing our ability to have a, you know, wide scale, long-term, early participation in these developments.
But Kelly, you guys have really, really tall, really thin, $200 million apartments over by Times Square, over by Central Park now. Shouldn't that make up for all of it, even though most of them are not being sold and they're being traded around like hot potatoes between billionaires who don't want to collect baseball cards, they want to collect apartments on Park Avenue? It doesn't that make up for it though? Right?
It's backwards. It's backwards.
Backwards.
Hopefully it'll come due, but we'll dive into that a little more when we go into the stories here in a sec.
Shane Hansen said, could imagine lol. Kelly's arm gets yanked down. He flops out of the chair. Tail flings on screen and screaming. That was funny. Oh, did we just lose Kelly? No, I'm joking. We're good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and introduce this story. T-Shroom, can you kick us off? What's going on here? New York State Assembly to halt non-renewable proof of work mining for 2 years. Intro it for us.
Yeah. So it's complicated, right? There's clearly some environmentalist types kind of pushing this forward. This is coming out of the New York State Assembly. They've passed a bill to impose a 2-year moratorium on fossil fuel-based mining. And Jeb astutely, while we were reading this, he pointed out that the moratorium will be on expansion. So if you're thinking of expanding your mining business in New York, you're going to want to look at these regulations and see how they may affect your business. But it hasn't passed the Senate there in New York yet. The Democratic Senate will have to pass this bill that was passed by the New York State Assembly. And this bill really targets, again, the expansion of businesses that do not derive their energy from renewable resources. So that would be fossil fuels, coal, gasoline, petroleum-based products. They need to be deriving their power from solar and wind. Now, that's honestly, it's not a bad thing for the long term for renewables to be the main source of energy for everything. But right now, as many media outlets are pointing out, we can't just hit the brakes on fossil fuels and flip over to solar and wind. I'm sure this isn't the first time you're hearing this argument. We just can't do it. It just can't happen. It's not in the cards. If you're looking at what's going on in Russia and Ukraine and how that conflict is more than a conflict, that war is affecting what Germany's looking and having to do with oil. You can see that energy is still extremely important, and gasoline is meeting those needs around the world for energy. So, but back in New York, they're trying to deal with this tension of folks wanting to go green, but also the realities of the economy still very much is dependent on gasoline and coal. And so, we're trying as a country and as a state, New York we all are trying to move towards renewables, but they're just going too fast. They're putting too much pressure on the wrong industries because, as we know, Bitcoin is actually one of the most sustainable industries now that there is. Kelly, help me out with this. Is it 65%?
64% based on the article I read yesterday. Yeah, Bitcoin is one of the most sustainable industries, not just anything. It's like literally one of the most sustainable industries in the world now, based on, and a lot of it has to do with having moved from China, which China had a lot dirtier energy uses that they were utilizing to do the mining. And I think that's a big part of it. But yeah, we're at 64%. At least 64% of the energy used in mining globally is now drawn from sustainable energy practices.
Yeah, and that gets 2 thumbs up for me. I like to see that. As we already talked about, the world can't just flip that switch like the Bitcoin community and the Bitcoin industry can. But 64%, that's extremely good. It wasn't always like that. Folks were comparing the energy requirements for Bitcoin to the entire nation of Chile's in energy requirement. First of all, that was based on flawed data, but it also didn't take into consideration that Bitcoin would become more dependent on renewable energies, as it now has, 64%. So is New York getting it wrong here? I think they're probably way ahead of their time with this kind of thinking, and not in a good way. They're like way too early. And this is ultimately going to be a detriment to New York that should be investing in this industry and helping provide loans and maybe even subsidize, although that's usually not a good thing, this industry, and help it to flourish. But instead, it's not, and it's taking cues from folks who are not level-headed enough, and well, to the victor goes the spoils, which is the next story, which is in Fort Worth, is going the opposite direction, right? So we'll cover that story here pretty shortly. Did you want me to read that into?
Yeah, well, let's just send it to Kelly for one last thought on that, because Kelly, you've lived in New York City for how many years? It's over a decade, right? You've lived there since 08?
14 years. Yeah.
14 years, okay. So about 14 years, that would have put you, well, that would have been 2008, right around the time you moved there.
Yeah.
So you obviously have boots on the ground up there. You are much more familiar with the state than either one of us are going to be. Do you think that there are any ulterior motives here? Because the thing that New York City is doing is driving away a lot of its financial prospects for the future, because crypto is going to be a $100 trillion industry. I think we all agree on that. And if New York doesn't keep up with the times, they're going to get left behind like the New York Times. That was, okay, well, we didn't make that one work, that one. We tried. Okay.
Well, I think, in all honesty, I think what it boils down to is ignorance. It boils down to not only channels like ours, but people just in general being, a missionary for Bitcoin. All of us need to be speaking positively about it, not just talking about what you can gain, but actually the positive not only community, but global impact of what Bitcoin does. You know, and the truth of the matter is the financial industry, for lack of a better way to describe it, has been run historically by, you know, older talking heads that are rooted in how things have been. And the problem with that, as it relates to Bitcoin, is Bitcoin has nothing to do with how things have been. It's going to be, it's how things will be, right? And so when they're trying to put these regulations on green energy, it makes sense. It's a okay way to think about it. However, what they're missing is, I think they're getting pushed to they're getting pushed along with this idea that Bitcoin is something that's detrimental to the environment based on old information and fear mongering, right? And so even from people like Brad Garlinghouse trying to add new coding to Bitcoin to make it more sustainable, and it's just irrelevant, because the truth of the matter is it actually becomes more profitable for Bitcoin miners to harness renewable energy, because it statistically costs them less money and will drive their profit margin. So in all reality, despite whatever regulations there are, the fact that green renewable energy will support their profit margins, it's basically a positive reinforcing cyclical loop that will drive things to be more green in the long run. Right. So it's not something that needs to be regulated at all. And I shared on my Twitter yesterday the whole story that I was talking about, and I'll pull it up here on my screen just so you can see this graph. But essentially Bitcoin currently is this is all the power in the world used. And I don't know if you can see this green line at all. This is how much is used by Bitcoin mining: 247 terawatt hours. Okay. Not only is this minuscule on the global scale, but also 64.6% electricity is with sustainable power mix. So we, among all the other countries in the world, this is how much more Bitcoin, this is how much more sustainable Bitcoin mining is compared to all these other nations in the world. Not only that, considering like the construction and finance and insurance sectors consume around 9,000 terawatts of energy. Aviation uses 4,000 terawatts of energy. Military industrial complex, 7,000. Why is Bitcoin even in this conversation when it's only a small percentage, like a minuscule percentage of what these other industries use? So I think it's a shark in sheep's clothing sort of thing. You know, it's where they're trying to make something out of nothing. I think it's just there's other actors at play that they're trying to suppress this by other means, because it's threatening industries, because they don't realize that this isn't something that's really threatening any industry. What really needs to happen is people need to realize this development, this evolution in our society and in our economy and in our ability with Bitcoin and blockchain and crypto assets as a whole can revolutionize every single industry out there if they don't oppose it, but rather integrate it.
That's what I've been saying ever since I was in high school and I'd get into political debates all the time. I am all for green energy. I want that to be the case because I don't want to destroy the earth any more than anybody else does. But the way that you get it to come about is by making it profitable in the capitalistic free market to use green energy over dirty energy. And as soon as you do that, the moment you do that, you hit an inflection point and it'll all work itself out. That's what's going on in mining. It's cheaper to mine with renewables than it is to connect into the power grid and to use a bunch of dirty energy that's on the grid. Hey, because of that, it's profitable, and they move in the direction of renewables because they want to make more money. As soon as you make it profitable, it's going to work itself out.
I even saw an article talking about Exxon. I don't know if you guys remember this, about a month or two ago.
Yeah, I remember.
They're now using the burn off that basically is just wasted energy. They're using that now to mine Bitcoin. And I saw an article about how irresponsible Exxon was for mining because it's detrimental to the environment. It's like, are you kidding me? They're using something that's already basically just wasted to transact it into something that's storable, and it's not using any energy at all except for stuff that's already been created.
Yeah, it's a witch hunt, and people are trying to put it on Bitcoin and crypto. This is another thing I've been saying for a long time. You're going to see crypto get ridiculously political. The whole flare gas debate with Exxon is a good example. People want to bring politics into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is turning into a political issue, just so you know. I can virtually guarantee you at the next presidential debates, if they even have ones, that cryptocurrency is going to be at least one of the questions. Bitcoin is turning into its own political party. It really is. It's turning into its own political movement around the world. And somebody said earlier, if you want to get reelected, don't knock on Bitcoin. I don't know if that's true, although I like the thought, because a lot of these politicians are wanting to knock on Bitcoin, I think just because they think it's popular and because they know that their constituency doesn't understand Bitcoin. So if they attack Bitcoin, then they look like they're leading a populist charge against this newfangled, dangerous energy using thing on the internet and try to get elected that way. It's a bit of a mess is what it is. But T-Shroom, I would love to hear your thoughts on that. And also, let's keep moving here and talk about Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm dropping a link right now to the Why Bitcoin episode on climate and energy.
That's what I was gonna say.
Why Bitcoin is better for the environment than the US dollar. It is an amazing video that we put out earlier in the year, and you're going to love it. Go check it out.
It's a great video.
Save that link and save it for later when you're on your lunch break, perhaps. But yeah, I mean, my thoughts overall are we are moving in the right direction as a miners. They're moving at 64% on renewable energy, not just because they're rah in environmentalists. It's because they are actually motivated by profit to do that. Now, I think that you should move to renewables without the profit motive. You should look into that for yourself, but the profit motives, it's undeniable.
It's the most powerful motive that you'll have in a free market by a landslide.
So in Texas, Fort Worth, they have become the first city that mines Bitcoin. So Texas is going in the opposite direction. Mayor Mattie Parker holds a cautious, optimistic attitude toward the latest move into the cryptocurrency industry, as she claims that Fort Worth will only decide whether to invest real cash for the mine after an assessment occurring in 6 months. So they're going carefully into this, but I do believe that their mines are operational. They were gifted 3 ASICs mines from the Texas Bitcoin Council, and that's pretty cool. It's not a big operation, but it's a significant operation. It's an operation that people in even the U.S. State Department have been kind of watching for, because this is the first U.S. governmental organization that is mining a currency other than the U.S. dollar. No one was mining the U.S. dollar, but this is the first time that this type of thing is taking place, and there's a lot of interesting implications, and we'll definitely be keeping a close look on this. Kelly, what were your thoughts on this story?
I mean, I think it's incredibly bullish. I think it's going to be, one of the first in many thousands of dominoes that sort of start to fall. And, the interesting thing about all this is that Texas has been an energy state since they struck oil there. And I think I want to throw it to Jeb here, and because he had a great, if you haven't seen it yet, you have to watch it. Jeb had a great interview with Michael Saylor about a month or two ago. And one of the things that I think people miss about mining Bitcoin is that when you basically mine Bitcoin, you're using energy to then capture it and store it as a transactable value that is indefinite. It stays in perpetuity. It's always there. And the interesting thing about it is once you put that energy into the stored value of Bitcoin, whether it's on a flash drive or in a wallet, you can use that then to buy other energy, whether it's oil or electricity or a coffee or just send it to pay a debt. But that doesn't mean that it's burned and it's gone. Once you get the thing you traded it for, the other person still has that Bitcoin as stored energy that they can, and then the next time it's traded, same thing. It's still stored, it's still usable. So I think that's the biggest misconception about this. It's not like when you mine oil and then once you burn the oil's gone, you have to go mine more oil. And the other side of this thing is Bitcoin's only going to be mined for, I think it's another 139 or 140 years before all Bitcoin is mined.
118,
so there
be 2140.
Yeah. There's sort of a not a deadline, but there's an end date on that mining. There's still going to be sort of transactable, confirmation sort of energy used to, secure the network. But at the end of the day, I think it's such a silly argument that we're in, because this is something that is not something that's going to, if anything, it's going to drive innovation in green energy. Yep. So I think people should spend more time looking into how to adopt it so they can drive that. It's a monetary reason to drive green energy. regardless of whether or not you believe in global warming or not, it's a no-brainer for me. It's silly that this argument is even on the table.
Yeah, for the one other physics nerd in the chat, the Bitcoin is, as Michael Saylor and I discussed on our interview, the first thermodynamically sound superconducting digital system in the history of mankind. And what that means is that you can frictionlessly transact Bitcoin anywhere in the world nearly instantaneously for virtually zero in fees. That's what the superconducting aspect means. If you're superconducting, normally that takes place in a conductor that is supercooled down to 1 degree above absolute zero, and then that allows the electrons in the conductor to pass with very little friction, because electricity, if you didn't know, actually has friction and resistance. It's measured in ohms, if I remember correctly. So a superconductor has ridiculously low resistance, meaning that there is very high conductivity. That's why it's called a superconducting system, because the electrons and the electricity are able to pass through very, very, very easily. So Bitcoin is a very similar concept. It's superconducting in that you can send transactions anywhere for virtually nothing, for virtually instantly, especially with layer 2s like Lightning Network coming online soon. Thermodynamically sound basically refers to the second law of thermodynamics, which states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only move around. So every system has this property of thermodynamics in it, in the physical reality, which means that it will leak energy over time. If I leave this computer here for 100 years, the battery will slowly but surely leak out the energy, and the battery will go dead. And then when I come back and try to turn it on, let's just say for some reason the computer would still be working in 100 years, I come back to turn it on, the battery's probably going to be dead because it's leaking energy as it goes. Same thing with, if you have a water tower that has a little leak in the bottom of it, slowly leaking that energy, the stored the water in the form of potential energy. So Bitcoin is thermodynamically sound in that it doesn't leak energy. Bitcoin is a form of digital energy. So that's why it's so valuable. What mining does, this is a huge misconception in the cryptocurrency space. Mining is not what creates the value of the US dollar. Mining is what supports the architecture of Bitcoin that stores the value that we put in from elsewhere. Bitcoin is not a valuable commodity. It is a container that stores value in the form of monetary energy. We put monetary energy in from US dollars or from euros or from pounds or from Litecoin or from Ethereum. We put that monetary energy into Bitcoin, and what mining does is it secures the network. So basically, if you have a water tower, the water tower is not water. It does not have the value of water, but what it is infrastructure that stores the water. It is not the energy itself, but without it, the energy would not be able to be properly utilized. That's what Bitcoin is. It's the water tower. What the mining does, the mining is, in the analogy, basically the worker that comes along and repairs the water tower and makes sure that the thing is kept up and maintained so that it doesn't start leaking water, or so that it doesn't let water go when it shouldn't. It basically maintains the system. For example, the interstate highway system in the United States cost $250 billion to build over the course of 40 years. It is not valuable in its own right. It is valuable because it is utilized. It is valuable because of all the cars and vehicles that move people, cargo, resources, and energy on those roads. What Bitcoin mining is in that analogy are the road crews that maintain the interstate highway system in the United States to make sure that the system continues to work. But the system only has value because people are using it. If nobody used Bitcoin, then it would have zero value and it would be worth nothing. But the reason that it is worth $40,000 a coin is because so many people have come together and realized, wait a second, this infrastructure thing, Bitcoin here, is one of the most secure, one of the most secure, it is the most secure, most superconducting, most thermodynamically sound digital systems that have ever been created in human history, and that's why it has value. Bitcoin mining does not create Bitcoin's value. However, it does create the security, and it does maintain the system that stores the value that we put into it.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself.
Cool beans. Well, let's see. We also have a story here on Bitcoin mining difficulty. Speaking of mining, T-Shroom, what is your opinion on the Bitcoin mining story that we have here?
Yeah, so the difficulty is going up, right? And it's going up soon. Kelly was actually the one that brought this story to my attention. So I'd kick it to him. But first of all, Bitcoin mining difficulty to hit all-time high soon. What does it mean? Bitcoin mining difficulty increases on the Bitcoin network as per data by Bitcoin.com. The Bitcoin mining hash rate is continuing to push record high as demand for Bitcoin increases. However, the hash rate had fluctuated massively in the last 2 weeks as the price witnessed massive fluctuations amid whale accumulations. After a drop in Bitcoin mining difficulty by 1.26% at block height 731,808, the Bitcoin network is expected to witness an increase in Bitcoin's mining difficulty by 4.51% on April 28th. Hence, it will effectively decrease Bitcoin's mining rewards for miners. Currently, the mining reward stands at $6.25 Bitcoin. So, things are heating up in the Bitcoin mining world. I think they're getting more difficult.
I don't know what that article has a typo in it. It stands at 6.25 Bitcoin, not $6.25 Bitcoin. I'm not sure why they put a dollar sign there. Right now, the mining reward is 6.25. After the next halving, it'll be 3.125. Yeah. Before it was 12 and a half, and then before that was 25, and before that was 50, and that's where it started. That's really funny.
Well, it's essentially here. The reason why this is important is because miners, they make their livelihood on, securing the network, but also they make a lot less money when depending on what's happening with if the price is going below, where they got rewards, then they could potentially capitulate. The biggest in sell, that means to take profits. The biggest difference here, though, is that in the last year and a half, the large majority, I'm talking large, like over 90% of the largest miners, like the top 10, are all publicly traded now, and it's in their interest not to capitulate, and they're securing funding not from selling Bitcoin, but from various investors, VCs, people buying stocks in their company, and so they don't need to capitulate any longer. But if we're looking at the hash rate and the difficulty, that's showing that there's a lot of miners that are still thinking that they're not turning off their miners yet, meaning they're not thinking that the price is going to capitulate much further down. And when we look at some on-chain metrics here, this is an interesting metric that not a lot of people look at, but it gives you a good indication of what's going on with the market. This is the Bitcoin market cap to thermocap ratio. And essentially you can see right here, the market cap to thermocap ratio is simply defined as the market cap divided by the thermocap, and can be used to assess if the asset's price is currently trading at a premium with respect to the total security spend by the miner. So when we're down in this level right here, that's showing basically a lot of times bottom side of the market, when you have a lot of upside, asymmetrical upside versus downside risk. And we're not in this green box, but we're very, very low. And even here, this is one of the reasons why a lot of people never thought that this was going to be the top of this bull cycle, because we got a very measly sort of read, very low read on this this oscillator in this metric. Now, if we look over here at the difficulty is, this is when China shut off their miners. And so there was a lot less miners, meaning that there was a lot less competition amongst miners to compete to secure those transactions and get the mining rewards. But this is not only recovered, V-shaped recovery, but we've far surpassed what this previous all-time high was, and we're still basically going up in this region. Now, excuse me, I'm not sure why I have a cough today. Now, if we look at the hash rate, this is still showing that we're still going up. There's still more and more miners coming online, competing. The transactability, it's showing that there's more demand, competition amongst the miners, which is actually speaking to the health of the market and the health of the level that we're at right now, not showing that miners are looking to capitulate, not showing that there's any sort of indication in the smartest minds in Bitcoin that I don't see that we're going into a sustained bear market from here based on just this metric, but rather we very well still could have a small capitulation to the downside, but I still think that we're going to be going up from here at some point here in the next month or two.
Good deal. Well, let's go ahead and read some super chats, and then we're going to wrap it out.
Yeah. Okay. Super chats. We've got a couple here. Elliot
Locke is here.
Just a second. The document is loading again. I was looking around for. Right. So Latore donated $10. We already read that one. Mike Markle donated $10. Said, I just want to remind everyone here how great of a job they are doing. I am proud of you all for focusing on your growth and building your knowledge. You are killing it, and I hope you have a great week.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you for hooking me up with that Cardano handle. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Tom Wilkes donated $20. My ridiculous thought of the day. What if Elon, who probably still owns bags of Doge, decides to take Saylor's advice, except he decides to use Doge for orange check verification, not BTC. Doge price goes nuts.
Elon is crazy enough to do that.
Yeah, that's what we speculated on that in our video from yesterday, I believe. That was why Doge went up 20%. That was our speculation.
The Doge fault.
So it's possible. It's also possible that he would get Cardano, Binance, Avalanche, and another blockchain that's been doing really well to underpin those verification systems. Kelly, it sounded like you had something you wanted to add. What's going on?
Well, I mean, I can't see that he would use any one of those as a standalone option. I think that if they were to do it, which I think they absolutely should, I think it would be multi-payment option, whether it be various fiat amongst probably a small basket of crypto options as well. So I mean, that's how I see it playing out. I think they would want to make it as easily accessed and doable as possible, so they can get the most people verified and make sure that they can eliminate as many bots as possible. And in order to do that, they'd have to have many different payment options.
They'd have to have a ton of different payment options, because the idea would be if you don't get like notifications or DMs or the ability to respond to people or tweet unless you do payment verification. So you'd have to have payments accepted in pretty much every single currency, so that probably would take place. Most fiat currencies would probably have to be enabled, and you would also have, well, it'd just be like any other payment processor. If you want to pay for Netflix, then they have, whatever currency you want to pay in, they're probably going to try and let you pay in it. We do have one more here from Elliot Locke. Was a question from Lane Hughes, which caught my eye. Elon bought and is improving Twitter. What would be the ramifications if he added Bitcoin to their balance sheet like he did Tesla? Coffee on me, smiley face. Well, I think that it'd be very bullish. Yes, it would be very bullish. And I don't know how much cash on hand Twitter has, but frankly, probably not a crazy amount. The thing with Twitter is that 8 of the last 10 years, they have failed to turn a profit. It's actually not a very financially sound company. Elon certainly did not buy it for the financials, but that might be the reason that he buys Bitcoin with Twitter, so that some of their assets actually start doing something for them, and it might help their balance sheet because they are consistently losing money. Kelly, what do you think about that? And then we're going to have to wrap it up.
No, I mean, I completely agree. I saw a metric yesterday showing the growth of various, there's about 14 different stocks as compared to Bitcoin in the last 7 years. And apparently Twitter has a 0% increase in 7 years. So whether or not, of course, it could have gone up and come back down, they're definitely not hugely profitable, which is surprising because they have a lot of ads and such within their business. So I'm surprised that they're not more profitable than they are, because they have over 300 million users. But yeah, I mean, if they added Bitcoin to their balance sheet, that would be incredibly bullish. But I can't see them, if Elon's the one at the helm, I can't see them buying Bitcoin and not buying at least one other cryptocurrency, whether it be Doge or Ethereum or whatever. But that's yet to be seen. I think it's going to take a few months for this transfer of power and transfer of whoever's at the helm to take effect. And then after that, it's still going to take a few months before any new things are implemented to be changed within the organization.
Yes, indeed. Well, guys, we're a couple minutes over, but we started a couple minutes late, so that is okay. If you enjoyed today's show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure to follow us on all of our social media at CryptoJeb and at CryptoJebOfficial over on TikTok. Make sure to check out Club DeFi. It is in closed beta, but when that thing goes fully live, oh my gosh, you're going to want to see it. If you're in CT2A and you're a CT2A alumni, you can actually get in right now. Check your email or email us support@cryptojeb.com. And if you're a member, if you're part of the first 200 people that signed up for the closed beta a few weeks ago, then you have an email sitting in your inbox with the email you signed up with right now, giving you instructions on how to get into Club DeFi. Make sure to check the account page to link a Discord to it so that I can meet you guys in the Discord. And I look forward to seeing that grow to tens of thousands of students learning all about crypto. Before we go though, guys, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling.